on, come on, come on, come on, come on, Michael Moore. Everybody, everybody, everybody saying Michael Moore.
When you think about nature, what picture appears in your mind? Probably trees, wildflowers, maybe a gently fluttering bird.
Seriously?
Most of us have this romantic sense that nature is a kind of peaceable kingdom where all things live in peace and harmony and equilibrium and lots of other good things. This is partly true. There's equilibrium, but not in the way most of us think. Nature is ruled by competition, and that competition often comes in the form of brute force. Certainly, among our fellow mammals, the biggest and strongest usually get the food and the territory and the mates. If they have the opportunity to wipe out a competing species, the whole species, and cause it to be extinct, they do it. No problem. It's just the way it is. Our apparently omnivorous squirrel friend, he's just playing by the rules. No nuts around, you gotta do what you gotta do. And those who don't play by the rules, folks, they aren't around for long. The rules are tough, but we need to appreciate them. In fact, we need to revere them. Because without them, there would be no life. And our world would still be the empty rock it was 4.5 billion or so years ago. I think I need to repeat this again. Without competition, there would be no life. Now, of course, these same rules have to apply to us. Like every other living thing, we must compete to survive. There's no choice. The alternative is extinction. Disagree? Think we've already won the race? Think we've evolved beyond the rules that every one of our fellow creatures lives by? We're so special that we can thumb our nose at Mother Nature, who, by the way, gave us both the thumb and the nose? Well, if we think that way, I don't like our chances. But we are different. We are special. And a development that should be considered a great miracle of the universe, and I chose those words carefully. Instead of being programmed to compete based on brute force, the powers that be, wherever they may be, decided that the most successful type of human competition will be based on free will and individual autonomy. We know this because all the others have been tried, and unfortunately, in some ways, are still being tried, but we know the results. Ethnic cleansing? Failure. Territorial expansion by force? Failure. Forced equality? Failure. Anarchy? Failure. Sorry, Che, I don't really consider you an anarchist, but there are no really other good examples out there. Business and government collaboration? Japan, well, not loser exactly, but not winner either. Free society, and the more exclusive of all the above, the better. Clear winner. You see these results throughout human history. That's why Greek citizens, who were more free than the Egyptians, became dominant. And the British, who were more free than the Greeks, became dominant. And the Americans, who were more free than the British, became dominant. Now, of course, these societies were still deeply flawed in many ways, but try to look objectively at the day-to-day lives of most people living during these various regimes. They're getting better, much, much better. Outside the dominant societies, life has also gotten better, but the speed at which it has gotten better is directly proportionate to the individual autonomy of its citizens. We talk about this in another segment. Well, that's why it's very likely that whoever supplants the Americans, and somebody will almost certainly be more free than they are. Whether this happens because the newcomers become more free or the Americans become less is another question. In the millions and millions of choices we make every day, a code has been written into the fabric of our existence. In a free society, the bad choices slowly, century after century, are weeded out, as those choices lead to bad outcomes like war, pollution, famine. The good choices, which lead to peace and prosperity, gain traction and become more and more prevalent. Societies based on free will and individual autonomy are more peaceful, more prosperous, and more successful. Societies that squelch and restrict individual freedom are more warlike, backward, and poor. The reason for this is simple. Freedom works, force does not. There's a concept used mostly in economics these days. It's known as zero-sum game theory. This means basically in any given competition, one side must win and another must lose. But humans have survived, prospered, and learned to control their environment to an extent never achieved before because we engage mostly in non-zero-sum interactions where both sides win something. We've learned at an accelerating pace over the past few hundred years that the more people are free to make their own decisions, the more successful our species becomes. We've also learned that when neither side can use physical force to compel the other in any human interaction, both sides nearly always win something. Voluntary, mutually beneficial interaction has proven itself as the most effective way for humans to prosper for thousands of years. It's been replicated over and over again, especially during the industrial and information ages. As seemingly complex as our world becomes, this has not changed at all. Every time we move away from it, let's say during the Dark Ages, the Inquisition, or establishment of the Soviet Union, we suffer. Anytime we move toward it, like in ancient Greece, or during the Renaissance, or after the establishment of the US Constitution, we prosper. And we shouldn't be surprised when this trend continues in the future. Now, this is the hard part. You'll notice I said mutually beneficial interaction, not equally beneficial interaction. But while a free human society is operating in a way that's consistent with the rules that have governed life on Earth, a society ruled by force, even forced equality, maybe even especially forced equality, is breaking the rules of life on Earth because of the human evolution toward freedom as the best way for our species to thrive. Now, are we going to disappear from the face of the Earth next year because our taxes are too high? No, probably. But I do have to wonder if the dinosaurs would have been dominant for 180 million years if they all chose to only eat fish. Or if 60 million years ago, the birds decided only to fly on sunny days. And no, I'm not saying that people in trouble shouldn't be helped. And no, I'm not saying we shouldn't care about anyone but ourselves. Here's what I'm saying. Helping with other people's money is not helping. Caring with other people's time is not caring. And when force is used to achieve the greater good, the results are almost never great and very rarely good. The rules are here for a reason. Whether we like them or not, we cannot break them without consequences. The consequences are eventually extinction. We are struggling right now to stay on the course that increases the likelihood of success and decreases the likelihood of extinction. Because what we really need to do is counterintuitive. Too many poor people, just give them more money. Too many rich people, just take it away. Too much drug abuse, just put the drug makers in jail. But I think about this, think about it. I agree, it is so tempting, but it is also so wrong. People have heard that when a male lion takes over a pride, the first thing he often does is kill the cubs. Talk about toxic masculinity. What if we were to separate the male lions from the cubs until the cubs were no longer endangered? That would be good for these cubs, right? But would it be good for the lions? The paths that we can take are so much more humane than the paths available to our fellow creatures. We should take them. We humans think we have all the time in the world. When eventually we do face our final reckoning, there are two things you can probably be sure of. First, it will be from something that we never even knew was there. And second, the humans alive at the time also probably will think they had all the time in the world. And on that happy note, I'm going to thank you for being human. Enjoy it, appreciate it, be thankful. There's a very good chance that most of us will still be around at the end of the day. See you next time. Maybe.